Hello, viewers. Good morning. My name is Vivi Colley. I'm the presenter of Child and Society. Today, we are going to be presenting to you parenting challenges faced by African families in United Kingdom. As you know, I can't do this alone, so I've got with me a specialist in child protection, someone by the name of Mr.
Alex Ebisan Kubenji.
Where are you from, Alex?
Well, I was born in the UK, but my parents are from Nigeria. They're from Warri. So I'm an Ishekiri man.
Wow, an Ishekiri man
I'm an
from the
Ishekiri
Delta.
man. Proud an Ishekiri, 100%.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's the Niger Delta area
Yes.
of Nigeria.
Yes.
The Oye people?
That's right, that's us.
Wonderful, thank you. It's nice to have you here with me.
Thank you.
Now we're going to be facing the viewers who are so keen to learn about the challenges that parents go through in bringing up their children in United Kingdom, in a country where there are stipulated laws as to how to raise your children. But even so, these African people come with their own value system. And this value system, they want to imbibe it in their children. And part of it is using corporal punishment sometimes, which does not go with the laws of this country. Anyway, over to you, Mr. Kubenji.
Okay. Well,
what are those challenges that parents face?
It's going to be very difficult for some parents, isn't it? Because if you've lived in a country whereby smacking your children is acceptable, and then you come to a country whereby it is not acceptable to use smacking as a way of disciplining your children, then you have to learn a new way of parenting in many respects.
Yeah.
The way I see it is that when I went to Nigeria as a 13-year-old boy, I was 13-year-old. My parents couldn't really control my behavior, and I went to Nigeria. And I remember the first thing my uncle, Colonel Tunji Taylor, said to me when I arrived was that if I smack you, you go to the police and see what the police will do. And that always stayed with me, you know, because he was making a point that in England, if I smacked you, you could go to the police and I could get arrested. Yeah. But in Nigeria, nothing like that's gonna happen, you know. So, you know, it must be difficult for some parents.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So therefore, parents have to strike a balance. You know, if they are not allowed to smack their children in United Kingdom, they have to look for a way somehow to control their children, because they believe in spare the rod. Yeah. Yeah, you are smiling.
I'm smiling.
You spare the rod and spoil the child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, yes, there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance. And what that balance is that, you know, at sometimes parents need to learn how to compromise with their children. I think what you see now is that a lot of parents are afraid to discipline their children because of the fear that the children are saying to them, if you touch me or if you do this, I will go to the police and I will say that. And one thing I've noticed is that a lot of the African community work with children or work with vulnerable adults, and they're quite worried that they could lose their livelihood. So what happens is that sometimes there is a kind of role reversal now, where the child is being the parent and the parent is too scared or too afraid to challenge the children. So there is that imbalance. In a lot of households there is that imbalance, because I believe that a lot of African parents are of the view that, you know, this is the way it should be and this is how children should behave. But in the UK, the expectations are very different. You know, and parents need to be able to adapt their parenting styles to fit in with how children are parented in the UK.
Interesting. So it's a big challenge for parents who obviously hold to their belief system, to their value system, and who feel that, you know, they have come to this country and they have had their children here, that it's like a loss for them if they are unable to imbibe in their children their ways of life, moral values, disciplinary values, and a whole lot of it. I know that equally there are some positive things that African families ought to be adapting to in this country, like giving love to children, for example, which African parents don't quite do.
I disagree with that statement, because I think that a lot of parents, a lot of African parents do love their children, but love can manifest in different ways.
Yes.
And because they're not loving their children in a particular way, does not mean that they do not love their children. When we talk about values, I think values are very, very important. I'll give you an example. Whenever any of my children step on my foot, I say to them, mash me. Step on my foot back.
Mash me, that is a proper worry word.
Mash me. And the children say to me, Dad, why do we do that? And it's a value base that I learned from my mother, that the child buries the parent,
yes,
and not the parent the child. So those are some of the value bases that we will have. And I'm not saying at any way, shape or form that we should lose our culture or our value, but we just have to look at different ways of dealing with our children. Smacking them is not the best way. There are other ways you can discipline your children. You can sanction them. You can ground them. You can you can remove treats from them. But at the same time, we reward them as well for positive behavior. So I think the value bases are very important to keep the culture alive.
Okay. Now, there are also some expectation for parents that you have to care for your child all the time, that you have to be available for your child. But most African parents who live in United Kingdom, some of them, they do not have enough or network of family systems to call upon to help them with child care. And therefore, they tend to leave their children at home or with someone who is not properly checked. That's another challenge.
Well, I think this comes back down to value bases as well, because if you were in, I'm not saying that I'm a professional when it comes to Nigeria and that I know every culture, but I know that the society there is a little bit more relaxed than the UK. And in my view, whether it's in Nigeria, whether it is in the UK, I think it's unacceptable to leave small children at home alone. What if the house caught fire?
Yes.
What if, somebody came, knocked on the door, the child opened the door and they kidnapped the child? There's so many ifs that could happen in that kind of scenario.
Yeah. I think even so, in Nigeria, parents will not normally leave their children on their own. They either have a house help or a relation who is there as another adult to oversee the children. But in United Kingdom, because they have limited network of family and friends, they take a risk. And thereby, they come to the attention of social services, and they end up sometimes losing their children. So it's a big challenge.
It is a big challenge, but I think people need to remember, I think you need to think about it in this way, that you're now in England or the United Kingdom. This is not Nigeria. For whatever reason you've came to the UK, you have to adapt and accept the way of doing things that they do, that is expected of you as a parent in the UK. And I think that leaving the children at home is a very dangerous thing, and it shouldn't be done, really.
There are some callers on the phone. I think I'm getting a call here now. Callers, you are listening to the challenges that African parents face when they are raising their children in the UK. And we are talking about how do they balance these challenges in order that their children do not come to the attention of social services. Please, yes, there's a caller coming through, but meanwhile, I think the call is gone now. Can we continue? Okay.
I remember a time in social work where there was a lot of parents from the Nigerian community who didn't really know how to play with their children.
Yes.
But now I see that's changed. That you know, parents now, a lot of parents now do know how to play with their children. They do know how to get on the floor and be creative with kids. So that's quite positive. That a lot of Nigerians, in my view, or a lot of Africans, in my view, are adapting to the way of parenting in the UK, and that's positive.
Good. That's lovely. Okay, let's then look at how some parents feel. Some parents still feel that Western world child rearing approach is too liberal and is too lax. We know that in the last, I think it must be 2012, we had a big riot in London, and those who have done research about that riot came up with the fact that it was due to poor parenting, that parents in the Western world are not as strict. What do you have to say about that?
No, I don't think that is naturally correct, because I mean, in my household, my wife is she's very firm and very boundaried with the children. She's more boundaried and firm with me than I am with the children. But I think what you've got to understand now is that, could you imagine a 13-year-old girl in Nigeria bringing a boy home and saying to her dad and her mum, "This is my boyfriend"? Could you imagine that?
Never.
It's not going to happen, is it?
It will never happen.
But in the UK, you find yourself in that dilemma when your daughter comes home with a 13-year-old boy and says, "This is her boyfriend." How do you respond?
That's the problem.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're accepting of it, because you can still say to your daughter, "This is not acceptable, and we don't do this." You know, you can still have those conversations. You can still have those views if you want.
Now, how do then African parents deal with the fact that children raised here have more independence than what they will expect their children to have? I mean, African parents tend to speak to their children, expect you to obey, not challenge a lot. But children born here and raised here are challenging. They do challenge your parent. They do question you. African people don't really raise children to question their parents.
But then my question goes back to the viewers. Do you actually think children in the UK are more independent than children in Nigeria? Because when you go to Nigeria and you see some of the things that the children in Nigeria can do for themselves, do you honestly think that the children in the UK are more independent than our children in Nigeria?
Okay, maybe...
I throw that to the viewers. Throw it to the viewers.
Yes,
I don't know.
Yeah, it could also be issues around respect and regard. African children are taught to respect their parents, to respect elders. But I think research has said that children in the Western world tend to respect authority rather than respect parents first. But African children are taught to respect their parents, respect your elders. About authority, yes, but not as much.
I think in the UK, I think, you know, a lot of the African children that I come across are very respectful. You know, they've been taught, you know, the values, you know, from their parents. I just think that in the UK, parents are spending perhaps more time with their children than they would if they were in Nigeria, because they've got houseboys, house girls, and there's a way of life. I don't know, I put it out there again. But I would suggest that children in the West will be more vocal. They will be vocal, more vocal.
Yeah. Than children back home, yeah.
They will be more vocal, in my view, anyway.
Yeah. Okay, obviously, while talking about that, we're talking about vocal. Some of the challenges, again, for children who live in African home, now I'm turning the coin round, is that they live with their parents where certain things are prohibited of them from talking about, like things going on within the family, telling it to someone, let alone tell it to school or tell it to health visitors. What's your take on this? Because it has implications with regards to children who are being abused if they're living in such homes and they are unable to speak up.
I think children should be able to speak up. They should have a voice and they should be heard. And I think that parents should encourage their children to speak to other professionals such as schools and health visitors. And I feel that children should have that avenue to be able to say what's going on for them at home.
So for parents who are watching out there, who are raising their children in their own belief and value system based on how they were brought up back in Africa, we are hearing and we're discussing the importance of, whilst you hold your value system, the importance of balancing that with what is expected of you and enabling children to have that voice so that if children are having issues within the home, they're able to speak up. I think someone is calling now. Yes? Can you put the caller through? Yes? I think we've lost it again. Go on. We lost it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I just think, you know, that you can parent in the UK and you can keep your values, you can keep your cultures, you can keep them. But as a lot of social work professionals will say to you, abuse is abuse.
Yes.
It's abuse. No matter what culture you say you're bringing to the UK, if it's abuse, that's what it is. And that's what it needs to be labelled as such. Yeah. So
because I think it's very important, the issue we're talking about, because it borders around the rights of the child to err and the rights of the parent to make decision and the rights of the parents to be a parent. And I've heard you today say that sometimes parents' rights, because of the fear that children are likely to report, yeah, parents are now afraid to exert the parental authority which they need in disciplining, in controlling, in leading, in guiding their children.
Well, it is difficult for parents, but what I believe anyway, my value system is that I think children are sometimes like a house. If the foundation is good, the building will last. The child will grow up into a productive person with respect and values. And I think that, you know, right from the onset of parenting a child, you need to put those values in, you need to put those boundaries in place right from the beginning. It's pointless trying to put those values in when they're 13.
Can you put the caller through, please? Thank you. A caller is on the line. Yes, caller?
How are you? Is that Lloyd Emeka?
Yes. Oh, hello. How are you doing, Lloyd?
I'm all right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, how can you contribute to this discussion today?
Yeah, you always bring in a very lovely discussion. You know.
Thank you.
About parenting children, I think the problem here in Europe, you know, is because the children, if you try to, you know, train them, because the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. We try to adopt that. You know, train your child. Maybe a child does something, you spank the child a little. The child might even turn around saying, I'm going to call police on you. But in Africa, such things are never heard of. A child cannot turn around and say to the parents, I'm going to call police on you when you spank the child.
Yeah.
So here they are more, you know, they have a better voice than in Africa. So you find out that the training, you know, we give them in Africa is something that will help them throughout their lifetime. But here, I was shocked, like yesterday, my shock, a child of 16 years, that I know the parents, I know the mom, came into my shop to tell me that she's pregnant, 16 years. You know, she was looking at me, asking me, what do I feel? I said, well, you're my child. I will feel that you're a total disappointment to me. But here in England, they look at it as maybe a well-organized society that is not at all after all. Free to do whatever I want to do.
But what you're saying, I totally understand what you're saying, and I hear what you're saying. But there are ways to parent children without being like physical with them. You know, there's sanctions. There are other ways. I mean, my parents, I was in trouble with the police. I was excluded from every school. I was told that I would never make anything out of my life. And I was sent to Nigeria at the age of 12. And yeah, it done me the world of good. It done me the world of good. Now, I have 5 children and I'm married. And I use those values that I learned in Nigeria to be able to parent my children with the support of my wife.
Right. That's interesting, isn't it? That's interesting. Yeah, you can see. So, I mean, obviously, what we've heard now is that, yes, African parents are doing the right things. We cannot fault them at all. However, we are living in a different country. The saying is like this, that do as Romans do. Yeah, embrace the culture, still hold your culture, try to strike a balance between your culture and the host culture. I think I have another call on the line, yes? Can you put the call through, please? Thank you. Shall we?
Yeah, it was interesting what he was saying, and I think that will be a lot of sense from the Nigerian the African community, that if I try and discipline my child, that the child will threaten me that I'm going to the police, I'm going to report you.
Yes.
But doesn't mean that discipline has to be physical.
No.
It doesn't mean it has to be
You
physical.
can speak to your child.
And you can speak to the child. You can sanction. You can remove the things that they like.
Exactly.
And they could go to the police all day long about things like that. Nothing will come of it.
Actually, what I found very helpful is that you can actually make time to be with your child. You review the child's conduct on a weekly basis. You make time to do things with the child. You go out, give the child a special time, make the child feel special. That works very well. Can I take that call, please? Can you put the call through? Caller, speak up.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, madam. Well, I just want to take a little contribution to...
Thank you.
the mentality of the we African.
Speak up. I can't hear you again.
Yeah, they say the mentality of we Africans, or the training, the culture of the African.
Yes.
Yeah, the training and the culture of the African entirely, the African general. I'm not trying to estimate whether Nigerian, Ghana, Cameroon, but the African general, the training that our fathers, our forefathers, they are giving to us. It's not the same mentality of the European Western world. Because all the Western world, you see, there's too much of freedom for the children. Wherever, you see, the children, the lack of the knowledge, the lack of the training of the African mentality, the lack of because in school, where the teacher will be teaching the children that if your mother do this, this is the number of police. If your mother do that, this is the number of police.
Okay.
And next, you will see the children call police.
Okay.
The country are sleeping.
All right. Okay.
How can the children be telling one mama you are to give them such a quack?
Excuse me, sir. You're quite sounds quite angry about this. Has this happened to you before as one of your children? Has this happened to you?
Okay.
Caller? We've lost
I think we've lost this caller. Caller, we've lost you, but we've come into the end of this program, I'm afraid. We're going to have to thank you all. As you know, today we've discussed about the challenges that parents face when they live in this country, when they are trying to parent their children, to go to work, to hold down family. It's not easy. But even so, what we're saying, whilst you hold your culture and your value, please try to adapt to the values of this country as well, because there are so many positive things as well. Do as the Romans do, embrace the law. The child protection law of this country protects every child. Every child needs to be aware of how to be safe, how to share information if they are concerned. Parents need to adopt child-centered rearing practices. They need to relearn, if it's possible, parenting and make time for their children.
Thank you. I would agree with that.
Do you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
100%. Yes. The specialist here, by the name of Mr. Alex Ebisan Kubenji, has agreed with us in this show. And we want to tell you, thank you very much for watching. And we want you to watch every Saturday at the same time, 11:30, Ben TV 182, Sky 182. And you'll be meeting a lot of specialist professionals in the child protection profession. You are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Viewers, this is the end of the show.